I hope you enjoyed the half hour with Dr. Arash. He's very interesting, very uplifting. Considering what most people think of, hospice. So I'm very glad to have him as a regular guest. So welcome back to the Educated Retirement Radio, where we contemplate retirement, how to best stay retired. And I'm not retired yet, but I preach one thing and kind of do another. I think that staying busy is important, but that doesn't mean you have to work full time. In this next hour, we will be visiting with NASA Nellie, who I believe is on her way down from the space station right now. Oh, there's her retro rockets. And then I get back into not very long because most of my rant for Dave Ramsey was last week. We're going to just finish it up today. I shouldn't use the word rant twice, I should, but my opinion of his opinion. So we don't want to keep NASA Nellie in the lurch, as it were. So how's things in space today?
Good.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Yeah. Go ahead, take it away, NASA Nellie.
The Betty and Barney Hill abduction case, also known as the Hill abduction and the Zeta Reticuli incident. Now, what do the films West Side Story, Mothra, and the 101 Dalmatians have in common?
Beats me.
They were all released in 1961, the same year as the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. While we were watching these movies, Betty and Barney were watching something out of this world. The Hills had eyes.
What a movie that was. Wow.
Betty and Barney Hill were an American couple who claimed that they were abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire from September 19th through the 20th in 1961. It was the first widely publicized report of an alien abduction in the United States. Barney was employed with the U.S. Postal Service, and his wife, Betty, was a social worker. They were both members of the NAACP and community leaders. Barney sat on a local board of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, and they were an interracial couple, which was uncommon in the U.S. at the time. It was 10:30 p.m. on September 19th. They were driving back home from a vacation from Montreal through rural New Hampshire when Betty observed a bright point of light in the sky. As it grew bigger and brighter, she urged Barney to stop the car for a closer look, so he did. Betty looked through binoculars and said she saw a craft with flashing multicolored lights. They headed back to the car, and the object followed them. This silent craft hovered above them and filled the entire field of view in the windshield. Barney then stopped out from the car with his pistol and headed toward the object. He's said to have seen several humanoid figures peering out of the windows, looking at him. He said that they were dressed in black uniforms and caps, and the beings were not human. Barney ran back to the car and screamed, "They're going to capture us." They took off at high speed, and where there were a series of beeping and buzzing sounds bouncing off the vehicle, and the whole car began to vibrate. And then they experienced the onset of an altered state of consciousness. Their minds were dulled. A second series of beeping sounds seemed to return the couple back to full consciousness, and they suddenly found that they had traveled 35 miles, and it was several hours later. As they arrived home, Betty insisted their luggage be kept near the back door. Their watches never worked again. The strap on the binoculars were torn. The toes of Barney's best shoes were scrapped. Betty's dress was torn and had a pinkish powder on it. There were circle imprints on their car's trunk and that were never there before. They experimented with a compass, passing it over the imprints, and found it to whirl rapidly when it passed by. Betty reported the UFO encounter with the local Air Force base, and they were told that the Hills had misidentified the planet Jupiter. In the time, Betty wrote a letter to Donald Kehoe, who passed it on to Walter Webb, an astronomer. Betty began having a series of dreams for several nights. They vividly showed in detail the experiences of the Hills with the humanoid creatures. After several meetings with officials discussing the incident, the Hills decided on hypnosis in hopes to uncover some possible hidden memories that would help with the answers to their questions. During their sessions, they were hypnotized separately, and their stories matched. Betty actually sketched a copy of the infamous star map, which was given to her as a 3D projection, like a hologram, by one of the humanoids. Later, this map was determined to be possibly the location of the extraterrestrial's home. It was later decided to be the double star system of Zeta Reticuli. Later, psychiatrists suggested that the supposed abduction was a hallucination brought on by stress of being in an interracial couple in the early 60s or sleep deprivation. Barney Hill was on an episode of To Tell the Truth. They were portrayed in television film called The UFO Incident. They have been the topic of many podcasts over the years and many television specials. The book Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill story, describes the account written by Stanton Freeman and their niece, Kathleen Marden. Kathleen, to this day, lectures on the incident at conferences and several UFO television programs.
There you go. That's Kathleen Marsden, the niece, right there. And there's that book, and I showed you where both Stanton Freeman and Kathleen Marden had dedicated and book to it. Not dedicated the book, but you know, the autograph to us. And there was something else I was going. Oh, I've heard the sleep paralysis thing come up several times as an excuse for what happened to them, but that would mean that Barney was driving while he was asleep, and I kind of doubt that altogether. So be it. It is one of the, if not the most famous abduction. I'd say that, and what's his name from Arizona?
Travis Walton.
Travis Walton, who we've met in person several times. Very intelligent feller, and whose story I do believe. Those are probably the two most famous abduction stories of all time. So I'm listening to see when NASA Nellie is going to take off again, and wish her, there she goes, and wish her a good flight and time in the International Space Station, probably until next week. So let's get on with what I started to talk about last week with concerning Dave Ramsey. And again, well, I don't need to say it. It's just, he either does not understand or has never studied it, and I have a feeling that he's smart enough to understand, but that he needs to build a reputation, and that's one way of doing it. So be it. Anyway, let me get to one of his, and again, I have help from this other fella I talked about last week who wrote this story that is in NASDAQ magazine or publication. And according to Dave Ramsey, you'll pay a hefty mortgage insurance premium that protects the lender, not you, against any losses. That is completely false. The primary purpose of the mortgage insurance premium, MIP, is to pay for losses resulting from the non-recourse nature of the product. This is primarily for the benefit of the borrower and their heirs, as well as the investor who owns the paper. That lender would likely not have made the same loan for the benefit of the borrower without the guarantee from the FHA insurance. Now, two quick points on that is it good for the borrower? Of course. The simple answer is that they couldn't get this unless that existed. There are other non-recourse loans in California, which we've talked about before, but let's look at some other things on top of that. You get a payment for the rest of your life, regardless of what happens to the value of the property, which probably won't go down. But if there's a period when it will, you're still covered. You've still got your income should you decide to take income from it. Most people don't. Most people actually leave it in the line of credit, allows it to grow, and take it as and when needed. And some of that is for health care, for maybe giving contributions to your grandchildren for school, memories now instead of later, living memories, we like to think of them as, or investments too. Remember, you can take money out and buy an investment. You can buy another property. You can collect the rent from that other property, and depending on where it is and what's owed on it, you don't have a payment on either one. Now, what's that going to do to your overall legacy and your overall value? Yes, the balance of the loan on your current home is going to go up. The equity is going to go up at a faster rate than most likely. And what's going to happen to your overall level of, your financial future? It's going to go up. You're going to have more money in 10, 20 years than if you had not done that. So as far as it being expensive, there is an amount there. People are familiar with mortgage insurance, but just ask yourself, hey, how much have you paid into your auto insurance over your lifetime, minus the amount they paid you back for whatever? Was that expensive? Well, it's this is nothing compared to that. So here's another falsism from Mr. Ramsey. You are also required to take a loan for the maximum amount you qualify for. And that is not true. It's false. Not only is it false, but the federal government prohibits borrowers from taking all the proceeds up front unless needed to pay a large mortgage balance at closing. But even that is limited. This has been HUD's policy since 2013, called initial disbursement limits. On the other hand, I don't think that Dave Ramsey is making any correlation with what he means by amount you qualify for. Because just to begin with, the 100% of what you qualify for in this environment of low interest rates is a bit over 50%. So believe me, you're nowhere near what he's making reference to. The interest rates that they've calculated are horrendously bad. No, they're not. You have to know that he's never looked at it. Most of the years, for most of not since the beginning in 1988, HECM or reverse rates have been at or below conforming rates. So that is an out and out falsehood. I really don't want to call it a lie but you know what it is. Servicing fees. These are another monthly expense coming your way with a reverse mortgage. No, they're not. That's another falsehood. And while HUD permits the use of servicing fees, they have not been seen in a HECM or reverse mortgage for well over 10 years. And even then, I'm not sure how much of it was around. The federally insured reverse mortgage product is continuously improving with new customer protections and long-term advantages for those who wish to age in place. And if you just heard our little talk with Dr. Arash, you know how important being in place can be. Do your own research and don't let radio personalities with little knowledge about a product impact your retirement cash flow decisions. You need to make up your own mind, and you need to know what it is that is being talked about. And unfortunately, I think Dave Ramsey knows this, and I don't want to accuse him of whatever, but I will accuse him of giving the wrong information. How and why he gets there, well, you can take your choice. I've taken mine. And I think that he is not at all doing a good service to the aging population of this country, or any country for that matter. And so many people can be helped out. And even if you don't need help, so many people can expand their legacy and just their lives, their quality of life. But so be it. We're going to let that go for now. And do your own research. Call me if nothing else. So let's get back to some of our even older people whose birthday it is today. And that would be Edward G. Ulmer, who we've talked about before in relation to other movies that he's made, but never talked about him on his birthday. So that's September the 17th, which is pretty close to today. He came into this world 1904 and left us in 1972. So Edgar George Ulmer was an American Austrian film director who mainly worked on Hollywood B movies. So I love B movies. And if you don't know what a B movie was, they used to remember those days when for 25 cents you'd go and see two movies, two, and a cartoon, and maybe a travelogue or a newsreel. But there was one main, like side A on a 45 small 45 record. There's a side A and a side B. Side B was the not expected to be the one that you bought the record for. But he was called King of PRC, known as the Producers Releasing Corporation, which was the less prestigious side of Hollywood film studios. A stretch of Gower Street in Hollywood called Poverty Row. Boy, it ain't no poverty no longer. The headquarters budget production companies because the rent was cheap. Many of these companies would make only a few B pictures and disappear. So Edgar was born in Olomouc, and I haven't seen it that way. Olomouc, which is now the Czech Republic. He worked as a stage actor and set designer while studying architecture. And let's take a look. We've seen this picture before, and of course, for this period of time, have a cigarette in your mouth, and he does. So what do you think? I've never had a cigarette, but do you think it would improve my looks? What do you think? Don't answer that. Well, anything that would take your eye off of me would improve my looks. So there he is I'm not older, but there he is as a kid. And a small picture, but hopefully you can see that well. I would hope. And let me just wait and take a look at the I'm looking. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. He served as an apprentice with German film director F.W. Murnau. Wow, big time. And they both came to Hollywood in 1926. His first big film as director was The Black Cat, which is now considered kind of a masterpiece and would belong on side A, with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, which became a big success. And I've got that, but I couldn't find it. So be it. He eventually found a niche making melodramas on tiny budgets. His film Detour was selected by the Library of Congress among the first group of 100 American films worthy of special preservation. This is a small masterpiece. It's really cool. There's been a couple of, at least one remake, but this is it. This is the one. Okay, and of course the Laserdisc. And of course the studio wanted to make sure they added the last 20 seconds, which makes it crime doesn't pay, but that's not really what was intended, but so be it. But that was worth preservation. In commemoration of the 30th anniversary of his death, a 3-day symposium of lectures and screening was held at New York City's New School, a school dedicated to academic freedom and a home for progressive thinkers, just like those people listening and watching this show. Among the many projects that they initiated was also launching the Philip Glass Institute. Edgar directed over 50 films. Any more in there? Anyway, so The Black Cat, which we mentioned, 1934. What is this?
Amazing Transparent.
Yeah, okay. Starred Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff. Trivia when movie music was usually limited to titles and credits, Edgar had an almost continuous background score. This was the first film collaboration of Lugosi and Karloff and the beginning of many. Detour, which we've talked about with Tom Neal and Savage. Edmund McDonald, I don't remember Edmund, what he did. I mean, it's mostly just the two of them, which is great. And, of course, one of our all-time favorites, The Man from Planet X, starring Robert Clark. Remember Robert Clark? The book first. Or the picture, whatever. This is a book we got from Robert Clark. I believe this was and look how nice that is. Autograph.
It's called To Be or Not to Be.
To Be or Not to Be, as in B movies. Robert Clark was in several B films, and he was a mortgage broker at the near the end of his life for a while, which was kind of like me. But since I'm going to live forever, I guess it's not near the end of my life. But we met him at the Orpheum Theater for a Halloween festival some years ago. And here is, I don't know, let me get back and see. That is this was a great movie, a lot of fun. And this is a poster that he had signed, and I'm sure we got it at the same festival. And there it is. Yeah, there you go. Grab that, will you? And how about the spaceship? We're going to grab the spaceship, but in the meantime, I'll show you. This is the weirdest visitor the Earth has ever seen. Well, I'm not sure of that, but it is. And it's got a bunch of fun facts. And Margaret Field was the main lead, female lead, who is, what's her name, Fields? What?
Sally Field.
Sally Field's mother. So there. One of the many models we got from Monsters in Motion in Fullerton, California. This is, boy, look at this. Is cool or what? I think so. This is a model of the spaceship from that film. Great. And so it starred Robert Clark, as we said, William Schallert, you would obviously recognize Margaret Field, Sally Field's mother. And to stretch his budget, Edgar was able to use sets from the big budget film Joan of Arc. It was filmed in 6 days, this movie. And Robert Clark's pay for the whole film, including overtime, was $210. So no complaining today about things. Pat Goldin, Goldin, who played the spaceman, complained about billing, short pay, and the heat of the costume. Well, so it goes. Edgar designed the moon spaceship. Oh, he designed the moon spaceship and glass paintings to expedite the production and cut down expenses. The Amazing, I never showed that, The Amazing Transparent Man, 1960, starring James Griffith, Douglas Kennedy. And it's on this 2-disc with The Indestructible Man, and The Amazing Transparent Man is right there. Big deal. No, that's cool. I don't remember watching The Amazing Transparent Man.
On Svengoolie.
We watched it on Svengoolie, and then we had to buy it. So I hope you guys are watching Svengoolie and listening to Mysterious Universe as a podcast. Anyway, The Amazing Transparent Man, 1960, starring James Griffith, Douglas Kennedy, huh? Beyond the Time Barrier, 1960, starring Robert Clark once again. Darlene Tompkins and John Van Dreelen, Dreelen. And who else's birthday was today? None other than Edgar Mitchell, who was born on this day in 1930 and left us, unfortunately, in 2016. And we got plenty of pictures of him, and we all pretty much know who he was, a U.S. naval officer. And what you might not know, he was a ufologist, a NASA astronaut, and the 6th person to walk on the moon. And there he is with the Apollo 14 insignia. Boy, I wish I could have gone to the moon. I guess there's still a chance. Yeah. Well, other than, Alice and the honeymoon is Zoom, moon. And we are using Zoom a lot now, but that's different. I thought we'd be going to hotels in space by now, but that's a whole nother show. Here's a picture of him as an older gentleman. There he is, looking good. And here he is as a younger feller with these. Hey, he's got a little model of the lunar landing module there with him, right? Not bad. That's cool. He's looking very happy, young, and in his prime. And one more, as long as we're looking at pictures. And
That's him.
this is him on the moon holding his Hasselblad camera and other stuff in the background. And we do have Chris Bissonette scheduled for next month, I believe. If you haven't listened to him on this show, he's going to save you tens of thousands of dollars sending your children to college. But we get into these great discussions about, did we really land on the moon? Personally, I think we did. But there are a lot of conspiracies and a lot of good reason to think otherwise, including watching the Kubrick film, The Shining. But that's another show in itself. And hopefully we'll get to that. But Mitchell was born in Hereford, Texas. He came from a ranching family and received his pilot's license at 16. While on active duty in the Navy, he earned a second bachelor's degree in aeronautics, was selected in 1966 as part of the fifth astronaut group and was assigned to the crew of Apollo 14. In 1971, the Apollo 14 crew stayed on the moon for 33 hours, activated lunar surface experiments, and collected almost 100 pounds of lunar examples to take back to Earth. Other than his exceptional achievements on the moon, we find his ufology interest very fascinating. And if you haven't seen The Men Who Stare at Goats, the film, I think you should take a look at that. And regarding the first Earth Battalion. So regarding UFOs, he stated that he was 90% sure that many of the thousands of UFOs recorded since the 40s belonged to visitors from other planets. In 2008, in an interview, he claimed the Roswell crash was real and that aliens have contacted humans several times, but that governments have hidden the truth for 60 years. Hold on a moment while I have me some coffee so I can talk a little more better. Thank you. And he stated, I happen to have enough to be in on the fact that we've been visited on this planet and the UFO phenomena is real. So he said that, and he is he's up there, of course, with NASA and a lot of experience and trusted by many, many people. He claimed to have received confirmation from an unnamed intelligence officer at the Pentagon that he said that NASA was not involved in any cover-up, and he had never seen a UFO and has never been threatened over his claims. So let me give you a short list of honors earned by Edgar Mitchell. Presidential Medal of Freedom, not sure when he got that. Manned Spacecraft Center Superior Achievement Award, along with NASA Nellie, I'm sure, who has, maybe she's received it or on her way to it, but I'm sure she's nominated. The NASA Distinguished Service Medal, and inducted into the International Space Hall of Fame. Mitchell also authored 3 books. And for some honorable mentions on this day, we have John Ritter, who was born in 1948 and left us in 2003, so he should have lived a lot longer. He appeared in over 100 films, television shows, including Stephen King's It and Three's Company. Nothing on that. Bryan Singer, great director of over 20 films, including one of my favorite all time, The Usual Suspects. Oh, here's another laser take. I mean, Sean, did you ever see this?
I don't think so. No.
It's amazing, with an enormous twist at the end, which really makes it so worthwhile. So, other than The Usual Suspects, the X-Men series of films, and here's just some of them. I was really into this for a while. I got kind of old after a while, especially when they got into like the individual, like Wolverine and things like that. But just to show you, I thought that was a really good series, the first few anyway, and probably the others are too. I just got a little old for me. Not that I got a little old; they got a little old for me. So, as you may remember, it's Classical Composers Month. So, we have a birthday here as part of the Classical uh, Music Month. And September is, like I said, Music Month, and we began with John Cage. And last week we honored Anton Dvorak, and today we bring you Gustav Holst, who was born actually on the 21st, but we're staying within the month, so because it's the Classical Music Month. So he was born September 21st, 1874, and he left us or earned his wings in 1934. So we got some pictures. This is kind of cool. Is this a real picture? Yeah, it looks like it. A little small, but I think you can see that. There he is as a young lad. Okay, and there's another small one, but a little bit older. Kind of a cool picture. And yeah, I'm looking at the monitor. It looks like they're showing up pretty good. And here he is as an older gentleman Holst. And let me get back to it in a second. I just want to show you the picture. English composer and arranger, best known for his orchestral suite, The Planets, which I used to listen to so often as an urchin. And when I got my new amplifier, we did a few of those. We listened. But, these things kind of make movies in your mind, don't they? So Gustav was born in Gloucester. His father was a professional musician. He was taught to play the piano and violin and took up the trombone at 12 and began composing. Growing up, he had asthma like I did. But you know what? I'm so lucky. I grew out of it. And like I've said before, I think smoking cigars help because, exercise always helps make things healthier and stronger. So I think smoking cigars made my lungs stronger. I hope Dr. Arash isn't hearing that, and please don't take that as the truth. Poor eyesight and neuritis, that ringing in the ear, making playing the piano difficult. Even though he had these health challenges, he received his first professional appointment at 17 as an organist and choir master. Later, against his father's wishes, who wanted him to become a pianist, he continued to pursue composing. He was unable to support himself by compositions alone, and to fill the gap, he played the trombone. I hope he got into some jazz also, professionally, which allowed him to afford board, lodging, and manuscript paper. Holst later became a teacher and served as musical director at Morley College in London. He was influenced by composers Richard Wagner. Listened to some Wagner this morning. Also listened to The Planets this morning. And Richard Strauss, as well as Gilbert and Sullivan, who I don't listen to very much, and became a lifelong friend of Ralph Vaughan Williams. It spells like Ralph, pronounced Ralph Vaughan Williams, who became more influential on Holst's music than anyone else. And I love Ralph Vaughan Williams, or Rafe Vaughan Williams music also. So The Planets, let me Oh, wait a minute. This is from the planets. Oh, this is Jupiter music. So go ahead and hum that out for me because I can't do it. I mean, big deal, I know. All right, this particular record, Deutsche Grammophon, Steinberg Boston Symphony Orchestra, is the one I know the most from my childhood. This is the one I played the most. I think it's because I like the cover is, the spacey look of the cover. Um, Here is Zubin Mehta Los Angeles Philharmonic, and this is a super analog disc from Japan. Uh, a reissue done very well, and there it is again. Although I think we will say this, but it has Mars, the bringer of war, Venus, the bringer of peace, Mercury, the winged messenger, Jupiter, the bringer of jollity, jolly old Jupiter, Saturn, the bringer of old age, which is an adagio, obviously. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it fits well. Uranus, the magician, and Neptune, the mystic. So, a great recording there. And speaking of covers, here's one. Played this one this morning, and this is actually a Westminster budget one, but it sounds really good, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Very different kind of interpretation, I thought, but I liked it very much. And just to show you, it ain't the only thing he wrote. I've got a lot more stuff, but I didn't want to bring it all out. This is just some other stuff. Gustav Holst, choral hymns from the Rig Veda, third group. Okay. So the planets, he conceived the idea of the planets in 1913. Unlike Dvorak's obsession with trains, Holst had interest in astronomy, and it is said he became a remarkably skilled interpreter of horoscopes, so it must have to do with astrology also, thus adding to his inspiration for the suite. Each planet is represented with a distinct character. Mars, as we talked about before, battle music, which is said to be a unique expression of violence and sheer terror. Saturn represents the relentless approach of old age. Neptune is likened to timelessness, never ending since space does not end. We found out different since, but drifting away into internal silence. Jupiter as the bringer of jollity, happiness, and being jolly with high spirits, projected through an infectious dynamic melody. There have been at least 80 commercial recordings of the planets over the years. The suite has been adopted for numerous instruments, including organ, brass band, and jazz orchestra. It has been taken as an influence by rock bands, various scores from films, televisions, and computer games. Gustav Holst wrote almost 200 catalog compositions, including operas, ballets, concertos, and the like. Now, what happened on this day in history? Boy, we're wrapping up here quickly. The day the Earth stood still, which, God, we've talked about a couple of times in the last couple of weeks for different reasons, came out on the 18th, 1951. Director Robert Wise, of course, it was his birthday last week, starred Michael Rennie, Patricia Neal, Hugh Marlowe, and the remake was released in 2008 starring Keanu Reeves, which I didn't care about too much. Nothing wrong with Keanu Reeves, but I just didn't like the production that much. There you go. The Day the Earth Stood Still. The Fugitive television series premiered September 17th. That would be today. 1963, a Quinn Martin production. Boy, Quinn Martin was everywhere, wasn't he? Usually narrated by William Conrad, which I didn't know. Last I saw William Conrad, he was having a martini at Musso and Frank's and wore staying in costume. He wore a long, a jacket, or what do you call it? Overcoat kind of thing. Anyway, that started David Jansen as Dr. Kimball, a physician who was wrongfully convicted of his wife's murder, sentenced to death, and whose train en route to death row derails, resulting in his escape and endless search for the killer. The series ran from 1963 to 67 and was remade and released in 1993 as a film with Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones. Both people were great. I think could have been Tommy Lee Jones' best role. I don't know. Of course, No Country for Old Men was great too. Not to mention Men in Black, but the film The Fugitive was really, really good. Mission Impossible was a television series premiered September 17th, 1966. A small team of secret government agents known as the Impossible Mission Force is used for missions against evil organizations, crime lords, etc. And of course, isn't that the one? Of course, they were given an assignment on tape which burned up after it was listened to. The regular cast starred Peter Graves, who was brother of the Carrot from Outer Space, and James Arness, that is, Martin Landau, Leonard Nimoy, Lee Merriweather, Barbara Bain, Greg Morris, and guest starred many other actors. Theme music was by composer Lalo Schifrin, which was great. And the show ran from 1966 to 1975, good long run. And it had various production companies involved. Mission Impossible was all remade into several films produced and starring Tom Cruise. So that, let me see, what do we got on that? Oh, we've got this. Now, what did I miss with that?
These were just other books about the moon.
Oh, okay.
And it actually goes along with the controversy or
controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you were discussing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Tom Cruise, of course. Here's Mission Impossible. We'll take a look at that, and people probably saw at least one. Now, what are we up to? Number 6. I know there was number 4. I'm not sure about 5 and or 6, but so be it. Tom Cruise, pretty good in those, and that's that. But I missed a couple things earlier when we were talking about Edgar Mitchell. And when we were talking about Edgar Mitchell, we were also talking about him as a ufologist, which is a fancy word for somebody that studies UFOs. And let me see some. And here's a couple. This is by Mike Barra. Mike Barra is a scientist. He's on a lot of television shows as the doubter or the skeptic. He's not really a skeptic, but he plays the part well, I guess. So if he's being skeptical about what's on the moon, he wrote a book. Interesting one. Great cover, though, don't you think? About aliens on the moon and ancient aliens on the moon. I don't know if you ever saw First Men on the Moon. It was an H.G. Wells story. It was really a fun film in color, widescreen at the time. It was really a lot of fun. And what do we have in the way of, well, there's Mike's picture, so you might recognize him as the debunker, but he ain't. And let's see, what else?
I think he signed that.
Did he sign this? Where did we meet him? I don't
Yeah, my phone.
I don't remember that. I don't see his signature. Maybe you can find it. And here's another one we got just lately.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, okay. Oh, to Jay and Kathleen, best wishes, Mike Barra. So what do I think of this concept? I'm open to it. Believe me, I'm open to it. Do I believe in UFOs? Of course, because it just means unidentified, whatever. Do I believe they're from outer space? I'll tell you what I 100% believe in. I believe that we are being visited by an alternate civilization that could be from outer space. It could be from, well, we used to say other dimensions, but that concept I think is a little old now with string theory and stuff. So we'd say maybe an alternate universe or a parallel universe. Could be from the past, could be from the future, or it could be just as like Richard Dolan and I think Jacques Vallée uh, has brought out that they are actually or could be a breakaway civilization. They could be just humans that are part of a breakaway civilization. And I don't mean in the H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu way of thinking, although that's possible too, but just that a group of far more advanced thinking people, or at least they became that much more, has separated themselves and they do exist right here, and they've got, you know, extra powers of being seen, being not seen. Do they live here or there? Who knows? I don't know. And I'm not willing to say, nor do I know whether they're from outer space or any of those other things. I just feel that some of that is absolutely true. And what does NASA Nelly think?
They could be from Oith.
They could be from Oith? Oith calling. What film was that from?
Destination Moon.
Destination Moon, that's right. So that's another George Pal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And let me see what's in this book, if anything. No, not nearly as many pictures. We like pictures.
I have a question.
You go ahead.
If you don't pay your exorcist, do you get repossessed?
Boy. Time for some jokes. You got some more?
What's a frog's favorite type of shoes?
I don't know. What is a frog's favorite type of shoes?
Open-toed sandals.
Open-toed, oh God, open-toed sandals. All right, keep them coming.
When the cannibal showed up late at the buffet, he got the cold shoulder.
That's worth repeating. Go ahead, lay it on us.
When the cannibal showed up late at the buffet, he got the cold shoulder.
Oh God.